My best friend stole my wife, my business, and 23 years of my life. But what he took from me wasn't the worst part. What I discovered about him afterward changed everything I thought I knew about friendship, loyalty, and the people we trust most. His name was Marcus, and for over 2 decades, he was closer to me than my own brother. We built our construction company from nothing, worked side by side through bankruptcies, divorces, and the kind of struggles that either destroy friendships or forge them into something unbreakable. I thought we had the latter. I was wrong. The morning I found out, I was drinking coffee from the same mug I'd used for 15 years. Sarah had given it to me on our first Christmas as a married couple. World's best husband in faded blue letters, chipped around the edges but still holding together. Just like our marriage, I thought. Just like everything in my life that morning before 9:47 a.m. changed everything. The call came from Danny, one of our younger guys on the crew. His voice was shaking, and at first I thought someone had gotten hurt on the job site. Construction's dangerous work, and we'd had close calls before. "Mike, you need to know something," he said. "I've been going back and forth about whether to tell you, but I can't keep quiet anymore." The way he said it made my stomach drop. Not the sharp fear of an accident, but something slower, colder. The kind of dread that creeps up your spine when you realize the ground beneath your feet isn't as solid as you thought. "What's going on, Danny?" "It's about Marcus and Sarah." 3 words. That's all it took to shatter 23 years of trust. 3 words that made my coffee taste like ash, made the familiar weight of my wedding ring feel like it was burning my finger. What about them? But I already knew. Deep down, in that place where we store the truths we're not ready to face, I already knew. Danny told me he'd seen them together. Not just together, but together. Holding hands walking into the Marriott downtown. The same hotel where Sarah and I had spent our anniversary 3 months earlier. The same place she'd laughed and said we should come back more often, that it felt like our special place. Apparently, it was special to her and Marcus too. I hung up and sat in my kitchen, staring at that stupid mug. 23 years of marriage. 15 years of business partnership. A friendship that started in high school when Marcus was the only kid who didn't make fun of my secondhand clothes and free lunch tickets. You know that feeling when your whole world shifts, but nothing around you actually changes? The kitchen looked exactly the same. Same scratched granite countertop Sarah had picked out during our renovation 5 years ago. Same family photos on the refrigerator, including the one of Marcus, Sarah, and me at last year's Christmas party. His arm around both of us, grinning like we were the 3 Musketeers. I guess we were, in a way. Except I didn't know 2 of us were plotting against the third. The betrayal hit in waves. First, the marriage. Sarah and I had been having problems, sure, but I thought we were working through them. Couples therapy, date nights, long conversations about reconnecting. All while she was reconnecting with my best friend behind my back. Then came the business implications. Marcus and I were 50-50 partners in everything. Every contract, every decision, every dollar that came through our company required both our signatures. If they were planning to be together, what did that mean for the company we'd built from nothing? But the worst part, the part that made me feel physically sick, was realizing how long this had probably been going on. All those late meetings Marcus claimed to have. All those times Sarah said she was out with her girlfriends. All those moments when I'd felt like something was off but convinced myself I was being paranoid. How many times had I been the fool in the room without knowing it? I called in sick for the first time in probably 5 years. Told our secretary I had food poisoning, which wasn't entirely a lie. The truth was rotting my stomach from the inside out. Instead of going to the job site, I drove around town for hours. Past the high school where Marcus and I first became friends. Past the lot where we'd built our first house together, learning as we went, making mistakes and covering for each other. Past the church where he'd been my best man and I'd been his. Wait. I'd been his best man. That memory hit me like a physical blow. Standing at the altar in my rented tux, holding his ring, promising to support him and Janet through whatever life threw at them. And now he was having an affair with my wife while he was still married to Janet. This wasn't just about me and Sarah. This was about Janet too. Sweet, trusting Janet who'd always made sure to invite Sarah and me to every family barbecue, every birthday party, every holiday gathering. Janet who'd sent me a thank you card last month for helping Marcus fix their deck. The scope of the betrayal kept expanding. It wasn't just my marriage or my friendship. It was our entire social circle, built over decades, all of it contaminated by lies. I couldn't go home. Not yet. Sarah would be there, and I wasn't ready to look at her face. Wasn't ready to see if I could detect the deception I'd been missing, or worse, if she'd gotten so good at lying that I still couldn't see it. So I went to O'Malley's, the dive bar where Marcus and I used to go after particularly brutal days on job sites. The kind of place that doesn't ask questions when a guy orders a whiskey at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Jimmy, the bartender, knew us well enough not to comment on my early arrival or my general appearance, which I'm sure was somewhere between haunted and barely holding it together. The usual, he asked. I nodded, not trusting my voice. As I sat there nursing my drink, my phone kept buzzing. Text messages from Sarah asking where I was, if I was okay, reminding me about dinner plans we'd made for that evening. The casual normalcy of her messages made everything worse. She was still playing the role of concerned wife while conducting her secret life. Marcus texted too. Wanted to discuss a bid we were preparing for a major commercial project. Our biggest potential contract yet. The kind of deal that could set us up for early retirement. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here they were, coordinating to steal my life while simultaneously asking me to participate in maintaining the illusion. I turned off my phone. Around 4 p.m., Janet walked into O'Malley's. That surprised me. Janet wasn't the type to frequent dive bars, and she definitely wasn't the type to track down her husband's business partner in said dive bar on a Tuesday afternoon. But there she was, looking as shell-shocked as I felt. Mike, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. We need to talk. She knew. How long have you known? I asked. 3 days. Found hotel receipts in his wallet when I was looking for cash to tip the pizza guy. She laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that comes when the alternative is screaming. 27 years of marriage, and I get suspicious because of a pizza tip. 27 years. For more than Sarah and me. Danny called you too? I asked. No. Different source. Apparently, they're not as careful as they think they are. We sat in silence for a while, two people who'd been friends for decades, connected now by the shared experience of betrayal. It was almost funny how quickly we'd gone from being the stable married couples in our group to being the abandoned spouses comparing notes. What are you going to do? Janet asked. I don't know. What are you going to do? I hired a lawyer yesterday. The practical side of betrayal. While I was still processing the emotional devastation, Janet was already 3 steps ahead, protecting herself legally and financially. Smart woman. I'd always known that about her, but seeing her in action was impressive and heartbreaking at the same time. You should probably do the same, she said. Especially with the business. The business. Right. 50-50 partnerships get complicated when one partner is sleeping with the other partner's wife. Especially when you can't stand to be in the same room with either of them anymore. Janet, I'm sorry, I said. I had no idea. I know you didn't. Neither did I. They're good at this. The way she said they're good at this suggested this wasn't Marcus's first affair. Just his first affair with my wife. How many others? I asked. That I know of? 3. That I suspect? Probably more. My stomach dropped. 3 others? Over the years. I kept forgiving him, kept believing him when he said it was over, that he'd changed. Counseling, promises, the whole cycle. She stared into her wineglass. Sarah's just the latest. Just the latest. My wife, the woman I'd loved for over 2 decades, was just the latest in a pattern of betrayal I'd been completely oblivious to. Why didn't you ever say anything? What was I supposed to say? Hey Mike, just so you know, your best friend and business partner is a serial cheater, and by the way, he's been making comments about Sarah for years? Making comments about Sarah for years. What kind of comments? Janet looked uncomfortable. Mike, maybe we shouldn't. What kind of comments, Janet? She sighed. He'd talk about how attractive she was, how lucky you were, how if he wasn't married, stuff like that. At first, I thought it was just guy talk, you know? But it got more specific over time. More detailed. I felt sick. While I'd been trusting Marcus with my business, my friendship, my family gatherings, he'd been evaluating my wife like she was a potential acquisition. How long do you think it's been going on? I asked. Between him and Sarah? I'm not sure. But he started acting different about 6 months ago. More secretive with his phone, more business meetings in the evenings, more concerned with his appearance. 6 months. That coincided with when Sarah started going to that new gym, when she started talking about finding herself and personal growth. When our conversations became more strained, when she seemed distracted during the few intimate moments we still shared. Had she been comparing me to him? Had she been lying next to me at night thinking about my best friend? The questions were torture, but I couldn't stop asking them. Janet and I talked for another hour, sharing intelligence like two investigators working the same case. Which, in a way, we were. We were investigating the systematic destruction of our lives by the two people we trusted most. By the time I left O'Malley's, I had a plan. Not a good plan, maybe, but a plan. I was going to confront them. Both of them. Together. I drove home knowing Sarah would be there, probably preparing dinner, probably wondering where I'd been all day. The normalcy of it made me angry. How dare she worry about dinner when she'd been feeding me lies for months? Her car was in the driveway. So was Marcus's truck. That stopped me cold. Marcus was at my house. With my wife. On a Tuesday evening when he should have been home with Janet. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. I sat in my car for a full 5 minutes, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to burst in and catch them in whatever they were doing. Part of me wanted to drive away and pretend I'd never seen his truck. But I'd been pretending for months without even knowing it. I was done pretending. I walked through my own front door like a stranger entering someone else's life. They were in the kitchen. Sarah was cooking, Marcus was sitting at our kitchen table with a beer, and they both looked up when I walked in like I was interrupting something. Which I was. Mike. Sarah's voice was too bright, too cheerful. Where have you been? I was worried. Marcus stood up, his expression unreadable. Hey, buddy. Sarah said you called in sick. You feeling okay? Buddy. After everything, he was still calling me buddy. I'm feeling like I need to ask you both something, I said. The temperature in the room dropped. Sarah stopped stirring whatever was on the stove. Marcus set down his beer. Are you two having an affair? Direct. Simple. No room for misinterpretation. The silence stretched out until it became its own answer. Sarah spoke first. Mike, what are you talking about? Why would you? Danny saw you at the Marriott. Another silence. Longer this time. Marcus cleared his throat. Mike, let's talk about this rationally. Rationally? I laughed, but it didn't sound like laughter. You want to talk rationally about you sleeping with my wife? It's not what you think, Sarah said. What I think is that my wife and my best friend have been lying to me for months. What I think is that you've been making a fool out of me while I've been working my ass off to support both of our families and build our business. What I think is that I don't even know who either of you are anymore. Marcus held up his hands like he was trying to calm down a dangerous animal. Mike, you're upset, and I understand why, but... Do you? Do you understand why I'm upset? Because I'm not sure you do. I'm not sure someone who could do this to his best friend understands anything about friendship or loyalty or basic human decency. That's not fair, Sarah said. You don't understand the situation. Then explain it to me. Explain how sleeping with my husband's best friend makes sense in any situation. Sarah looked at Marcus like she was asking for permission to speak. That look told me everything I needed to know about who was really in charge of their relationship. We didn't plan this, Marcus said. It just happened. Just happened. Like tripping over a curb or forgetting to buy milk. Like it was some unavoidable accident rather than a series of deliberate choices made over months. When? I asked. They looked at each other again. Mike, Sarah started. When did it start? Last spring, Marcus said quietly. Last spring. 8 months ago. 8 months of lies, 8 months of betrayal, 8 months of me being the fool who trusted them both. Where? Mike, does it matter? Where? The office, Sarah whispered. Our office. The place Marcus and I had built together, where we'd made our dreams into reality, where I trusted him with everything that mattered to me. He'd brought my wife to our office. How many times? Mike, stop, Sarah said. You're torturing yourself. How many times did you have sex with my best friend in the business we built together? She started crying. Not the kind of crying that comes from remorse, but the kind that comes from being caught. Marcus stepped forward. That's enough. You're being cruel. I'm being cruel? The laugh that came out of me was ugly. I'm being cruel by asking questions about my own life? This isn't helping anyone, he said. You know what would help? You know what would have helped? If my best friend hadn't decided to steal my wife. If my wife hadn't decided to cheat with my business partner. If the two people I trusted most in the world hadn't conspired to destroy my life. We never meant to hurt you, Sarah said through her tears. But you did hurt me. Every day for 8 months, you hurt me. Every time you lied, every time you snuck around, every time you looked me in the eye and pretended to be my friend or my wife while you were planning your secret life together. It's not like that, Marcus said. What's it like then? Explain it to me. Make me understand how this is anything other than the two people I loved most deciding I didn't matter. Neither of them answered. Are you in love? I asked. More silence. Are you planning to be together? Sarah nodded, barely perceptible. What about Janet? Marcus flinched. What about her? Does she know you're leaving her for my wife? It's complicated. No, it's not. It's actually very simple. You're both going to destroy your marriages to be together. Janet loses her husband of 27 years, I lose my wife of 23 years, and you two get to start fresh with your great love story. Mike, Sarah started. Did you ever love me? The question hung in the air. It wasn't one I'd planned to ask, but it came out anyway. Of course I loved you, Sarah said. Do you love me now? She looked at Marcus again. Still asking permission. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. I haven't been for a long time. Not in love with me for a long time. While I'd been working to save our marriage, she'd already given up on it. While I'd been planning our future, she'd been planning her exit. How long? Mike, please. How long have you not been in love with me? Years, she whispered. Years. Not months. Years. I looked at Marcus, my best friend, my business partner, the man I trusted with everything. Did you know she felt that way? He nodded. For how long? A while. A while. So you knew my wife didn't love me, and instead of telling me, instead of encouraging her to work on our marriage or leave me honestly, you decided to seduce her. It wasn't like that. What was it like? Paint me a picture. Help me understand how my best friend justifies stealing my wife. She was unhappy, Mike. She needed someone who understood her. And you understood her? Better than you did, apparently. The words hit like a physical blow. After everything, after being caught red-handed, he was still taking shots at me. You're right, I said. You understood her better than I did. You understood that she was willing to lie and cheat and destroy people she claimed to love. You understood that she was capable of living a double life for months without showing any guilt or remorse. You understood that she was exactly the kind of person who would betray someone who trusted her. That's enough, Marcus said, stepping closer. Is it? Because I don't think I've said nearly enough. I don't think I've adequately expressed how completely you've both betrayed not just me, but Janet, and our kids, and everyone who cared about us. The kids don't have to know about this, Sarah said. Our kids. Emma, 21 and in college. Jake, 19 and starting his sophomore year. Kids who looked up to Marcus as a second father, who'd spent countless holidays and vacations with his family, who thought of the four of us adults as their extended family unit. The kids don't have to know that their mother is a cheater and their honorary uncle is a liar? They don't have to know that the stable family structure they grew up with was built on lies? Mike, you're being dramatic. I'm being dramatic? I'm being dramatic because I'm upset that my family is being destroyed by selfishness and betrayal? We fell in love, Marcus said. Sometimes that happens. People can't help who they fall in love with. You can help what you do about it. You can help whether you act on it. You can help whether you lie and sneak around and betray the people who trust you. You're right, Sarah said suddenly. You're absolutely right, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mike. We should have handled this differently. Finally. Some acknowledgement of responsibility. How should you have handled it? I should have talked to you. Should have been honest about how I was feeling instead of this. And you? I looked at Marcus. I should have stayed out of it. Should have told you she was unhappy and let you two work it out. Should have, would have, could have. The language of regret that comes too late to matter. What happens now? I asked. They looked at each other again. Still a team, even in the middle of being confronted about their betrayal. I want a divorce, Sarah said. I figured. What about you, Marcus? What do you want? I want us to stay friends. The audacity of it was breathtaking. After everything, he wanted us to stay friends. Friends? I repeated. We've been through too much together to let this destroy our friendship. Our friendship was already destroyed. You destroyed it when you decided my wife was more important than my trust. Mike, come on. No. Don't come on me. Don't minimize this or pretend it's something we can work through. You made a choice. You chose her over our friendship, over our business partnership, over 25 years of history. That choice has consequences. What does that mean for the business? He asked. And there it was. The real concern. Not our friendship, not the damage he'd done to my life, but the business. The money. What do you think it means? We can still work together. We're professionals. You think I'm going to continue in business with someone who betrayed me in the most fundamental way possible? The business is separate from this. Nothing is separate from this. You brought my wife to our office. You used our business as your personal playground. You've made it impossible for me to trust you with anything, let alone a company we own together. So what, you want to dissolve everything? Throw away 15 years of building this company? You threw it away when you decided to betray me. The room went quiet again. Sarah had stopped crying and was just watching us, probably realizing that her decision to cheat was going to have financial consequences she hadn't considered. Let me ask you something, I said to Marcus. When you were making this decision, when you were deciding to pursue my wife, did you think about what it would mean for our business? Of course I did. And I thought we were mature enough to separate our personal lives from our professional relationship. You thought I was mature enough to work alongside the man who stole my wife. I thought you'd understand that sometimes life is complicated. Life is complicated. The universal excuse for selfish behavior. Here's what I understand, I said. I understand that you're not the man I thought you were. I understand that our friendship was less important to you than getting what you wanted. I understand that you're capable of looking me in the eye and lying without hesitation. And I understand that I can never trust you again. Mike. I want you out of my house. Can we? Out. Marcus looked at Sarah like he was asking if she was coming with him. I'm staying, she said. We need to talk about logistics. Logistics. The practical side of dismantling a life. After Marcus left, Sarah and I sat in our kitchen in silence. The same kitchen where we'd shared thousands of meals, where we'd discussed our kids' problems and our own dreams, where we'd made plans for a future that was now dissolving. What happens next? She asked. You call a lawyer. I call a lawyer. We figure out how to divide 23 years of shared life. And the kids? We tell them the truth. We tell them their mother fell in love with someone else and their parents are getting divorced. Do we have to tell them it was Marcus? I stared at her. Do we have to tell them it was the man they've called Uncle Marcus their entire lives? The man who taught Jake how to throw a curveball and walked Emma down the aisle at her friend's wedding when her own father was out of town? They don't need to know the details. They're going to figure it out, Sarah. When Marcus leaves Janet and moves in with you, when our social circle implodes, when families start taking sides, they're going to figure out exactly what happened. Maybe Marcus and I won't. Won't what? Won't end up together? Are you having second thoughts now that you're realizing the actual cost of your choices? She didn't answer. Because if you are, if this was all just some fantasy that didn't account for reality, you should know that it's too late. You can't unbetray someone. You can't take back months of lies and deception. The damage is done whether you end up with him or not. I know that. Do you? Do you really understand that you've destroyed not just our marriage, but our family structure, our social circle, our business partnership, and our kids' sense of stability? I never meant for all that to happen. But you knew it would happen. You're not stupid, Sarah. You knew that cheating with Marcus would have consequences beyond just our marriage. She started crying again. I just wanted to be happy. At everyone else's expense. That's not fair. What's not fair is you destroying multiple families because you wanted to be happy. What's not fair is Marcus destroying a friendship and a business because he wanted my wife. What's not fair is Janet losing her husband because he decided to upgrade. What's not fair is our kids losing their stable family structure because their mother couldn't be bothered to either work on her marriage or end it honestly. I said I was sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't undo months of betrayal. Sorry doesn't give me back my trust or my marriage or my friendship or my business partnership. We talked for another hour, but it wasn't really talking. It was negotiating. Dividing assets, discussing custody, planning the logistics of dismantling a life we'd built together. The house would have to be sold. The kids would split time between us. She wanted half of everything, including my share of the business. You want half of my business? It's community property. The business I built with the man you cheated with. That doesn't change the legal reality. Legal reality. We'd moved from love and betrayal to legal reality in the span of a few hours. That night, I slept in our guest room. Sarah stayed in our bedroom, in the bed where she'd probably been planning her new life with Marcus while I slept beside her, oblivious. I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about all the signs I'd missed, all the moments when I'd felt like something was wrong but convinced myself I was being paranoid. The times Marcus had been overly interested in Sarah's opinions or feelings. The times Sarah had seemed distracted or distant. The changes in their behavior that I'd attributed to stress or midlife adjustments. I'd been living in a story where I was the trusting husband and friend, where problems were minor and fixable, where the people I loved were fundamentally honest and loyal. But that wasn't the story at all. I'd been living in a different story entirely, one where I was the fool being systematically deceived by the two people I trusted most. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Then I called Janet. "How are you doing?" she asked. "Terrible." "You?" "The same." "Did you confront them?" "Yeah. Marcus was at my house when I got home yesterday." "Bold of him." "That's one word for it." "What did your lawyer say?" "That I have a strong case for alimony given his pattern of infidelity and the length of our marriage." "What did yours say?" "Haven't talked to him yet. Appointments this afternoon." We discussed strategy like generals planning a campaign. Which, in a way, we were. Marcus and Sarah had declared war on our marriages, and Janet and I were finally fighting back. "Janet, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you think they planned this from the beginning? The whole thing with our friendship, our families being close, all of it?" "I think Marcus has been planning to leave me for years, and Sarah was just the opportunity he was waiting for." "What do you mean?" I think he's been looking for an upgrade for a long time. Someone younger, prettier, with fewer years of history and baggage." Sarah fits the bill. Sarah was 3 years younger than Janet and had maintained her appearance better. Not that Janet wasn't attractive, but Sarah had more time and money to spend on herself. "You think it was calculated?" "I think Marcus is more calculating than either of us ever realized." That afternoon, my lawyer explained the reality of divorce in a community property state. Sarah was entitled to half of everything we'd acquired during our marriage, including my share of the business. "Can I buy her out?" "If you have the cash or can get financing." "But it'll be expensive." "More expensive than having her as a business partner?" "Probably not. The business valuation would take months. In the meantime, Marcus and I would have to continue working together, at least on paper." "What about dissolving the partnership entirely?" "Also an option, but you'd lose the value you've built over 15 years. Every option was terrible. Stay in business with the man who betrayed me, buy out my cheating wife's share with money I didn't have, or dissolve everything and start over at 51 years old. That evening, Marcus called. "We need to talk about the business," he said. "I have nothing to say to you about the business or anything else. Mike, be reasonable. We have contracts, employees, responsibilities. You should have thought about that before you decided to steal my wife." "I didn't steal her. She made her own choice. After you spent months pursuing her and undermining our marriage. I never said anything negative about you. You didn't have to. Your actions said everything." We argued for 20 minutes, getting nowhere. He wanted to maintain our partnership and our friendship. I wanted him out of my life entirely. "What do you want?" he finally asked. "I want you to buy me out." "I can't afford to buy you out." "Then I'll buy you out." "I can't afford to sell, either." "I need the income." Of course he did. He was about to have 2 households to support instead of 1. "That's not my problem." "It is your problem if you want out of our partnership." He was right, and we both knew it. We were stuck together whether we liked it or not. Over the next few weeks, Sarah moved out. She rented a small apartment across town, and Marcus started spending more time there than at his own house. Janet filed for divorce. Sarah filed for divorce. The business kept operating because it had to, but Marcus and I barely spoke except when absolutely necessary. Our employees knew something was wrong. You can't hide that kind of tension in a small company. But they were loyal workers, and nobody asked direct questions. The hardest part was telling the kids. Emma came home from college for a weekend visit and immediately sensed the atmosphere. "Where's Mom?" she asked. "She moved out." "What do you mean she moved out?" "Your mother and I are getting divorced." Emma sat down hard on the couch. "What happened?" "She fell in love with someone else." "Who?" I hesitated. Sarah and I had agreed not to volunteer Marcus's name, but we hadn't agreed to lie if asked directly. "Uncle Marcus." Emma's face went through a series of expressions. Confusion, understanding, anger, disgust. Uncle Marcus? Dad, that's so messed up. Yes, it is. What about Aunt Janet? They're getting divorced too. So Mom and Uncle Marcus destroyed both families? That's one way to put it. Emma was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, "How long has this been going on?" "About 8 months. 8 months? They've been lying to everyone for 8 months?" "Yes." "That's disgusting. I can't believe Mom would do that. I can't believe Uncle Marcus would do that." Emma refused to see Sarah for 2 weeks. When she finally agreed to have dinner with her mother, she came back to my house afterward and said, "She acts like this is some great love story. Like she and Uncle Marcus are star-crossed lovers who couldn't help themselves." "What did you tell her?" "I told her she was a cheater and a liar, and that great love stories don't begin with betraying people who trust you." Jake's reaction was different but equally painful. He just shut down. Stopped talking about it, stopped asking questions, stopped expressing any emotion about the divorce at all. When I tried to discuss it with him, he said, "It doesn't matter. People do what they want to do. There's no point in being upset about it." But he was upset. He just wasn't showing it. 3 months after the confrontation, Marcus and Sarah were living together openly. Janet's divorce was finalized. Ours was still working its way through the legal system. The business valuation came back higher than expected, which should have been good news but just meant Sarah's half would be even more expensive to buy out. Marcus and I were still stuck in partnership, still barely speaking, still showing up to the same office every day and pretending we could work together. Then something happened that changed everything. I was working late one evening, trying to catch up on paperwork, when I heard voices in Marcus's office. He was there with Tom Henley, one of our biggest clients. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but their voices carried, and what I heard made me stop what I was doing and listen more carefully. They were discussing a side deal. Marcus was offering to do work for Tom under a separate company name, at a lower price than our official bids, using our equipment and our workers but routing the profits through a different entity. Marcus was stealing from our company. I stayed late and went through his files. What I found was a systematic pattern of side deals going back almost 2 years. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue that should have been coming through our partnership but was instead going directly to Marcus through shell companies he'd set up. He'd been stealing from me long before he started stealing my wife. The next morning, I confronted him with the evidence. "You've been running side deals." His face went white. "Mike, I can explain." "Explain how you've been stealing from our partnership for 2 years? It's not stealing. It's just what? It's just fraud? It's just embezzlement? It's just you systematically stealing from the business we built together?" "I was planning to tell you." "When? After you'd stolen enough to buy me out? After you destroyed our partnership the same way you destroyed our friendship?" Marcus sat down heavily in his chair. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, he looked defeated. "How much?" I asked. "Mike, how much have you stolen from our company?" "It's not that simple." "The number, Marcus." "How much? Over the 2 years?" "Maybe 300,000. $300,000. Enough to buy out his share of the partnership. Enough to start fresh somewhere else. Enough to build a new life with my wife using money he'd stolen from me." "You've been planning this for 2 years, I said. It wasn't a question." "Not exactly. You've been stealing money, undermining our partnership, and positioning yourself to leave with my wife and enough cash to start over." "It wasn't like that." "What was it like? Paint me another picture. Help me understand how stealing from your business partner for 2 years is different from what I think it is." Marcus looked at the floor. "I was protecting myself." "From what?" "From you. From being trapped in this partnership forever." "Trapped? In the business we built together? In the friendship that made both of us successful?" You never wanted to expand. You never wanted to take risks. You were content to stay small forever. So you decided to steal from me instead of talking to me about your concerns? I tried talking to you. You weren't interested in changing anything. When? When did you try talking to me about this? He couldn't answer because it never happened. He'd never expressed dissatisfaction with our business model, never suggested we needed to expand or take bigger risks, never had a single conversation about wanting to change our partnership structure. You know what I think happened? I said. I think you got greedy. I think you decided you deserved more than 50% of what we'd built. I think you started stealing from me, and then you decided you might as well steal my wife too. That's not. Or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe you started wanting Sarah, and you realized you'd need money to leave Janet and start over, so you started stealing from the business to fund your new life. Mike, stop. Which was it, Marcus? Did you steal my money to steal my wife, or did you steal my wife to justify stealing my money? I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen. All of it. The stealing, the lying, the betrayal, the destruction of our families. It all happened because you made a series of deliberate choices over 2 years. I sat down across from his desk, the same desk where we'd made plans for our future, where we'd celebrated big contracts and worked through tough decisions together. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to repay every penny you stole from our company. With interest. And then you're going to sell me your share of the business for exactly what you paid for it 15 years ago. Mike, I can't. You can't what? You can't afford to repay money you stole? You can't afford to give up the business you've been systematically defrauding? I don't have $300,000. Then you'll figure out how to get it. Sell your house. Liquidate your retirement accounts. Take out loans. I don't care how you do it, but you'll repay what you stole. And if I don't? Then I'll file criminal charges for embezzlement and fraud. I'll report you to the state licensing board. I'll make sure every contractor in this city knows exactly what kind of business partner you are. You'd destroy my reputation? You destroyed your reputation when you decided to steal from me. I'm just deciding whether to make it public. Marcus looked defeated, which was exactly how I wanted him to look. There's something else, I said. Sarah doesn't know about the stealing, does she? No. Does she know she's been sleeping with a thief? Does she know the man she chose over her husband has been committing crimes for 2 years? Mike, please. Please what? Please don't tell her? Please keep your secret so she can go on thinking she left her husband for a man of integrity instead of a criminal? She doesn't need to know about this. She doesn't need to know that the man she's planning to marry is a thief and a fraud? It's not relevant to our relationship. It's completely relevant to your relationship. It's relevant to her future financial security. It's relevant to her understanding of who you really are. I stood up. You have 2 weeks to come up with a repayment plan. 2 weeks to figure out how you're going to make this right. And if I can't? Then Sarah's going to find out she traded her husband for a criminal. That afternoon, I called Sarah. We need to talk, I said. About what? The lawyers are handling everything. About Marcus. What about him? Meet me for coffee. 1 hour. This is important. She agreed, probably thinking I was going to make some last-ditch effort to save our marriage. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop we'd never been to together. She looked good, better than she had in months. Happy. Being with Marcus was apparently agreeing with her. What's this about? She asked. It's about the man you left me for. Mike, if you're trying to talk me out of this. I'm not trying to talk you out of anything. I'm trying to make sure you understand what you're getting into. What do you mean? Marcus has been stealing from our company for 2 years. Sarah's expression didn't change. What are you talking about? He's been running side deals, routing money through shell companies, defrauding our partnership. He's stolen about $300,000. That's ridiculous. I have documentation. Bank records, contracts, correspondence with clients. He admitted it when I confronted him this morning. Sarah was quiet for a long time. Even if that's true, what does it have to do with me? What does it have to do with you? You're planning to marry a man who's been committing crimes. You're planning to build a life with someone who spent 2 years systematically stealing from his best friend. That's between you and him. Is it? Because the money he stole probably funded your relationship. The hotel rooms, the dinners, the gifts. You've been enjoying the benefits of his theft. I don't believe you. Call him. Ask him if it's true. Maybe I will. Good. And while you're at it, ask him what else he's lied about. Ask him how many other side deals he's run. Ask him what other secrets he's keeping. Why are you telling me this? Because despite everything you've done to me, I don't want to see you destroy your life for a man who isn't who you think he is. Or maybe you're making this up to break us up. Sarah, our marriage is over. You made sure of that. I'm not trying to win you back. I'm trying to save you from making an even bigger mistake. By slandering the man I love? By telling you the truth about the man you think you love. Sarah left without saying goodbye. Within an hour, my phone was ringing. You told her? Marcus's voice was strained. I told her the truth. You had no right. I had every right. She's about to marry a criminal. She deserves to know what she's getting into. She doesn't believe you. Did you confirm it when she asked? Silence. You lied to her again, didn't you? She asked if you'd been stealing, and you lied. I told her it was complicated. It's not complicated. You stole money. That's theft. It's a crime. Mike, please. Don't do this to us. Do what? Tell the truth? Hold you accountable for your actions? Destroy our relationship over a business dispute. A business dispute? You think systematic theft is just a business dispute? We can work this out. No, we can't. You've stolen from me, lied to me, betrayed me, and now you're lying to Sarah about who you really are. There's nothing to work out. What do you want? I want you to repay what you stole and get out of my life. Both of you. And if we don't? Then I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who Marcus Chen really is. The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. I had evidence of Marcus's theft, but using it would complicate the business dissolution and potentially hurt our employees who depended on the company for their livelihoods. I also had to decide whether to press criminal charges. Part of me wanted to see him face the consequences of his actions. Part of me just wanted him gone. Meanwhile, Sarah and Marcus were clearly having problems. Emma mentioned that Sarah seemed stressed and distracted during their weekly phone calls. Jake said he'd seen Marcus moving boxes out of Sarah's apartment. Then Janet called with news that changed everything. Marcus came to see me yesterday, she said. What did he want? To apologize. And to tell me something I think you should know. What? He's broke. Completely broke. The side deals you discovered? The money went to pay gambling debts. Gambling debts. I'd assumed Marcus was stealing to fund his new life with Sarah. Instead, he'd been stealing to cover gambling losses. How much does he owe? According to him, about $500,000. $500,000. More than he'd stolen from our company. To whom? People you don't want to owe money to, if you know what I mean. I knew what she meant. Marcus had gotten involved with loan sharks or organized crime. The kind of people who collect debts through violence. He's in real trouble, Mike. The kind of trouble that doesn't go away. What does he want from you? He wants me to take out a second mortgage on our house to help him pay off his debts. Are you going to do it? Hell no. I'm not risking my home for his gambling addiction. But I thought you should know what you're dealing with. After I hung up with Janet, I sat in my office thinking about everything I'd learned. Marcus wasn't just a cheater and a thief. He was a gambling addict who'd stolen from our company to pay debts to dangerous people. Sarah had left her husband for a man who was financially ruined and potentially in physical danger. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt sad. Sad for Sarah, who'd destroyed her marriage for a fantasy. Sad for Marcus, who destroyed his life trying to chase losses with more losses. Sad for all of us, whose lives had been shattered by his poor choices. My phone rang. Sarah. Is it true? She asked without preamble. Is what true? The gambling. Marcus finally told me about the gambling. Yes, it's true. All of it? The debts, the stealing, everything? Yes. Sarah was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Smaller. I've been such a fool. Sarah. I left you for a man who's been lying to me from the beginning. I destroyed our marriage, our family, our children's stability, for someone who isn't even who I thought he was. What are you going to do? I don't know. Marcus is talking about leaving town, starting over somewhere else. He wants me to come with him. Are you going to? I don't know. Everything I thought I knew about him is a lie. Everything I thought I wanted is based on deception. What about us? What about us, Mike? I betrayed you. I lied to you. I chose another man over our marriage. Even if Marcus turns out to be the worst mistake of my life, that doesn't undo what I did to you. No, it doesn't. Do you think there's any chance we could ever? I don't know, Sarah. I honestly don't know. I understand if you can't forgive me. I can't forgive myself. The forgiveness isn't the issue. The trust is. How do I ever trust you again? How do I ever believe anything you tell me after months of systematic deception? I don't know. Maybe you can't. Maybe I can't. We talked for another hour, but it was a different kind of conversation than any we'd had since this started. Not defensive or accusatory, just sad. Two people surveying the wreckage of their life together and trying to understand how it had all gone so wrong. The next day, Marcus disappeared. He didn't show up to work, didn't answer his phone, didn't respond to messages. His apartment was empty, his truck was gone, and Sarah hadn't heard from him. He'd run. Sarah found out from the police, who came to her apartment looking for him. Apparently, his creditors had filed charges for fraud and theft. There were warrants out for his arrest. She called me in tears. He's gone, Mike. He just left. Didn't say goodbye, didn't explain, just disappeared. I'm sorry, Sarah. I gave up everything for him. Everything. And he just ran. What are you going to do? I don't know. I can't afford my apartment without his income. I don't have a job. I gave up my friends, my marriage, my stability, and now I have nothing. You could come home. The words came out before I'd really thought about them. What? You could come home. We could try to figure out how to move forward. Mike, after everything I've done? After all the pain I've caused? I'm not saying it would be easy. I'm not saying I can forget what happened or that things would go back to the way they were. But maybe we could try to build something new. Why would you want to try after what I put you through? Because despite everything, I still love you. And because Marcus was right about one thing. You were unhappy in our marriage, and I didn't see it. Maybe we both have work to do. I don't deserve a second chance. Maybe none of us deserves the chances we get. Maybe we just decide what we want to do with them. Sarah moved back home 2 weeks later. It was awkward and painful and complicated. We slept in separate bedrooms, went to couples therapy, had long difficult conversations about trust and forgiveness and what it meant to start over. The kids were skeptical but supportive in their own ways. Emma said she was proud of us for trying to work things out instead of just giving up. Jake said he didn't care what we did as long as we stopped putting him in the middle of our drama. The business took longer to sort out. With Marcus gone and facing criminal charges, I had to buy out his share from the court-appointed receiver handling his assets. It was expensive and complicated, but eventually I became the sole owner of the company we'd built together. 6 months later, we heard that Marcus had been arrested in Nevada. He was facing charges in multiple states for fraud, embezzlement, and running illegal gambling operations. The man I'd known as my best friend had apparently been living a double life for years. Sarah and I are still working on our marriage. Some days are better than others. We've learned to talk about things that we used to ignore. We've learned that trust isn't something you can take for granted, that it has to be built and maintained every day. Are we happy? That's a complicated question. We're honest with each other now in ways we never were before. We're committed to making our marriage work not because it's easy, but because we've learned how much it costs to let it fall apart. The betrayal changed us both. It taught Sarah that running away from problems doesn't solve them, that fantasy relationships built on deception always collapse under the weight of reality. It taught me that trust without verification is naive, that the people closest to us are capable of the deepest betrayals. But it also taught us that forgiveness is possible, that second chances can be meaningful, and that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can also be the thing that saves you. We're different now. More careful with each other, more honest about our feelings, more aware of how fragile good relationships really are. We're not the same couple we were before, but maybe that's not such a bad thing. The old couple took each other for granted, ignored problems, and drifted apart without noticing. The new couple works every day to maintain their connection, to be honest about their needs, and to protect what they're building together. Marcus taught us, in the most painful way possible, that the people we trust most can hurt us deepest. But he also taught us that love isn't just a feeling you have, it's a choice you make every day. A choice to be honest, to be faithful, to put your partner's well-being alongside your own. Sarah chose Marcus over me, and it nearly destroyed everything. But when he showed his true colors, when the fantasy crumbled and reality hit, she chose me again. Not because I was the safe option or the convenient option, but because after everything we'd been through, I was still the person she wanted to build a life with. That second choice means more to me than the first one ever did. The first choice was made by young people who didn't really understand what they were promising. The second choice was made by adults who knew exactly what they were risking and what they were gaining. We still have hard days. Days when the memory of betrayal feels fresh, when trust feels fragile, when we wonder if we're fooling ourselves to think we can make this work. But we also have good days. Days when we remember why we fell in love, why we chose each other, why our relationship is worth fighting for. The other day, Sarah bought me a new coffee mug. World's second chance husband, it says. Not as romantic as the original, maybe, but more honest. More real. Marcus is serving 8 years in federal prison. I don't hate him anymore. I pity him. He had everything: a successful business, a loving wife, children who respected him, friends who trusted him, and he threw it all away chasing fantasies and running from debts. The life he wanted was already his. He just couldn't see it. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us deepest. But sometimes they're also the ones worth trusting again. If you've been through betrayal like this, if someone you loved and trusted chose to destroy your life for their own selfish reasons, know that you're not alone. Know that the pain you're feeling is real and valid, but it won't last forever. And if you're thinking about betraying someone who trusts you, someone who loves you, someone who's built their life around the belief that you're worthy of their faith, remember that the momentary pleasure of getting what you want isn't worth the permanent damage you'll do to everyone involved, including yourself. Trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship. Once you break it, you can rebuild it, but it will never be the same. Make sure whatever you're gaining is worth what you're losing. Because the cost of betrayal isn't just paid by the person being betrayed. It's paid by everyone who loves you, everyone who trusted you, everyone who believed you were better than your worst impulses. Don't let your worst impulses win. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more stories like this one. And let me know in the comments if you've ever dealt with betrayal from someone you trusted completely. How did you handle it? How did you move forward? Subscribe for more true stories.